if wives could have that mentality of enjoying the journey rather than pushing so hard to get the finished product, it would take a little pressure off of the man needing to comply every time with every wish that that wife has.
Typically, the wife is more concerned about what everything looks like, and the husband is more concerned about finances. And usually in the beginning, the guy's involved with like selections, and then finally he just gets to the point where he just like, okay, I don't care anymore, you know, and he just kind of backs out until he sees what it costs, and then he's like, and then all of a sudden it's like he's involved again.
Honestly, I'm gonna take some accountability here. I feel like I did that with our house.
Yeah.
I'm just like, we're adding that. No, we're doing that.
Yeah.
Men, if they love their wives and want to give their wives things, I think sometimes they just fall and they get ensnared by, okay.
So I think what might help with that situation then is to have a contingency line item or a line item to use for things that you want as you're building.
Rather than finishing it all 100%, what can we start with and then what can we add later?
Yeah.
And we've discussed some of those things, like what can we look at doing down the road and then making it more of a journey than it has to be a finished project right away. You really have to kind of get that right from the get-go. It's hard to come back and do that later, but the inside you can definitely layer and increase how it looks over time, much easier. I feel like husbands and wives, I've noticed in most builds, there's like a connect to a certain point, and I think that really making sure that they're both on the same page, like we're streamlining that better. All right, so today is going to be a topic that's much beloved by you, because it's been something you've done a long time. From the time you were little, you started. And it was fun for us, I think, over time, getting to the point where we built our own home together. I mean, we did build a home together and lived in it for a while. But to like really get into a custom home together, we built our own home. And through that process, we learned so much. And so this is kind of combining that love of building and your profession along with what we learned through our own personal experiences.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between a custom home and a custom luxury home. And then the last one that we did was more on the luxury side.
And a lot more details.
Way more details into it. So.
Yeah. So it was really fun. Well, it was really fun. It was very eventful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good word.
Especially since it was built during COVID.
Yeah. I mean, it came with a lot of learning for ourselves. I think also to being able to put yourself in the shoes of your clients and kind of feel and sense maybe what they're feeling. And on top of that, I think we had the added benefit of having much, like all this knowledge, but we still learned from it. And I think we learned on a more personal level what they were feeling, not so much on a professional level. Would you say that's true?
Yes.
Okay. So in this episode, we want to talk about that, and then also talk about like the intention behind our home. We mentioned that a little bit before in prior episodes, but I want to talk a little bit about that. And the intent and purpose of this podcast is not just to share our experiences, but to kind of help couples who listen to us, learn a little bit more about what they might experience through the process of building a custom home. Are you with me on this one?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So first, let's talk about, I want you to go back and talk about COVID and talk specifically about, and just touch upon this lightly, because I think a lot of people have heard, through the grapevine and at that time, kind of what was going on with the building industry. But how did that impact us? Because that did add stress to the build of our house.
Yeah, it was a ton of stress. I think that number one, we started like breaking ground spring break of it was 22, I think, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right when COVID started, March.
Wasn't it 2020?
No, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I think 2020.
Yeah, you're right. So we started the exact same time that the kids didn't go back to school from spring break. So
yeah,
a lot of unknown. I mean, right off the bat, it was COVID got into the truss plant, and it took quite a long time to get the floor trusses for the house, and then the trusses themselves, and just kind of like the problems that we ran into. Appliances was like a really big problem.
And we were building, the other homes that we were building at the time were a little Like we had some further along and then some after. And at that point, appliances started becoming very tricky to get from the get-go.
They were like 52 weeks out. So then other builds that we had to purchase them up front and put them in the storage unit so that anytime we could get a hold of them.
We did that with plumbing fixtures,
lighting fixtures. We just started putting them in storage units and just making sure that we had them for when we needed them, because you just couldn't get them.
Yeah. But it delayed the process of the build. On top of that, our framers were slow as snails.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Because it was complex. It was so complex. But there was definitely challenges. I think that when you go into a build, you think it's just going to be perfect and it's going to be fast and it's going to be easy. But lots of times, like in this situation, there were unknowns that we could not have foreseen. And I think that right away, that probably was a hardship for both of us. It was something you had never encountered before as a builder. And for me, being the wife that's like just chomping at the bit to get her house done, it was a frustration. It was a source of frustration. So
for sure.
I think that I learned quickly that, like, you know, first and foremost, when you're building a house, there are unforeseens, no matter who you are, whether you're the builder building your own house or whether you are building with somebody, there are going to be unforeseen things.
Yeah. Well, it starts with the architecture. And what is drawn on paper and what actually works out in the field and when you're building the house are two separate things. And so there's a term in the industry that they use that's called an as-built or a plan bust. Those are the two terms that they use. And what happens is when they design this house and then you start framing it, and then it won't frame the way that the architect designed it. So when you're selecting an architect in the beginning, if that architect has a strong knowledge of framing, that really helps because they can understand how it's going to go together.
Yeah. Well, and in our house, remember, we had a plan bust.
Yes.
Do you remember what happened there?
I'm trying to remember what it was.
So our family room was supposed to be pitched.
Oh,
so it's supposed to be, I mean, explain what that means to those who may not know.
The pitch of the roof, I think it kind of came up, and then there was
inside the family room.
Yeah, and then it had kind of a shed style off the backside, so it came down.
Supposed to have some shed style windows. It was supposed to be pitched.
Yeah, and it just didn't go together, so we ended up just...
Well, it didn't go together because there were 2 pages on the plans that each indicated something different.
Yeah.
So when we built it, we ended up having, instead of doing a vault, we had to just do straight up ceilings with a flat,
and we
like
boxed
ceilings.
it out.
And we boxed it out,
yeah.
Which was kind of cool though, because then we opened up, there was a walkway between some rooms up high, and we were able to open that up. And that was so fun.
Yeah, so you could look through
I didn't know how fun that would be, but it was so awesome because, like, if the doorbell rang, anybody upstairs would just run to that and look to see who was there. Or you could go to it and talk down into the family room in the kitchen. Like, it became what frustrated me became a joy. What upset me ended up becoming like a tremendous blessing, because I feel like it made us feel even closer, and it created a flow in our house I wasn't even expecting.
Yeah, for sure. So we just kind of like went with it.
Yeah.
So I think that when you're building a house and you run into problems, you just kind of have to solve the problem. And if it's a custom home, it's never been built before.
Yeah.
And so you have to go through and work out those problems.
Right.
And if you're purchasing a track house from a production builder, those model homes, that's how they work out their kinks in the beginning, is they build the models and then they work out the kinks, and then they figure out, okay, now we're going into production, and now any problems in the beginning have already been worked out.
And that's the thing. I think first and foremost, and working with clients too, how many clients have we had that they've come to us and been like, well, there was supposed to, there's a window there. Why is there not an upstairs? And it's like, well, there's no staircase to that. Like, they don't see it on the plans.
Exactly.
And that's been a little bit of a frustration for us working with clients. We had one that was like, well, there should be a window coming down through my kitchen. Like, and we're like, what? It's nowhere on the plans.
Yeah,
so lots of times, like, what they're conveying to the architectural designer doesn't actually come out, or they believe, well, if there's a window there must be an upstairs there. What's going on here? But yeah, it's just interesting how first and foremost, plans, what's built is on those plans. If there's a plan bust, that's when we pivot.
Yeah, and it's a whole lot easier to get the builder involved in the beginning when you're designing those plans.
Oh, for sure.
So that we can look at it and see what's being designed and how it's actually going to work.
Yeah. And in our defense, there was no way we were going to catch that plan bust.
No.
That was tricky.
No.
But it worked out, and I'm grateful.
Yes.
Okay, so that was one thing that I think kind of threw me was, I think as a woman, I mean, I think as an idealist, we all want things to just be so smooth and amazing and perfect. And there is always going to be something, no matter how organized or how streamlined you have things, there's always going to be something that pops up, right? It's just the nature of the beast. So many decisions, so many things that go into home, and that's okay. At the end of the day, it's going to be beautiful. It just takes working things out. So that takes me to the next question. When we worked together on our house, how do you feel like we did with our communication on that house? Do you feel like we did a good job? Do you feel like...
I think we learned a lot from it because that was the first one that we actually, I think, built with the two of us.
Right.
Which really helped because then with us working together on our own house, then we understand what clients would go through and the questions that they might have and the understanding. And when you're making that many decisions, it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of like sleepless nights. And did I choose the right thing? And is it going to turn out right? And so going through all that together and learning to communicate together as to, I don't like this or I like that. And that really helped us have more empathy, I believe, for our clients.
Yeah. I also think too, this home was kind of interesting because I think it was our first experience of trying to create something with intention. Like the first house that we built together, you built it. I think I picked out some things, but it was very simple. Yeah. It was a very simple custom home. And I kind of picked things without any thought. I was just like, yeah, we'll go with that.
We went with an existing floor plan and then just kind of tweaked a few things.
But it was interesting because going into this home, we were really considering things. We were considering a lot of details. And I think that we did a lot of discussion about different things. And I think at that point, like I heard your input and I took a percentage of that and incorporated it, but then there were other things I didn't. So moving forward with this new home, I feel like it's been a little easier already.
Yeah, I think so.
Wouldn't you say? We're just like, yep, that's right. Yep, we're right on. Like it's almost like we're flowing together.
Yeah, and I think backing up a little bit and talking about this new house that we're building, we had a different lot that we were going to, the first lot that we were going to build on, and then we started a floor plan and it just didn't work. And then
we both just felt like it doesn't feel like us. It doesn't feel
and it
right.
there was a whole bunch of problems that we saw with the elevation and how it just wasn't what we were looking for.
Or even the floor plan.
Yeah, and the floor plan. So we just stopped the whole thing. And then lo and behold, the next door neighbor comes along and just kept bugging us to sell the lot. And so we ended up selling it and bought a different lot altogether.
Yeah, which we're much happier with.
Yeah, which is a whole lot better lot for what we're trying to accomplish. And so I guess what you have to do is if it's not working, then maybe stop and take a look at it and figure out what's going on and not try and like cram a square peg in a round hole that's not working.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this. Like you're a builder. So when we've built homes and we are working together and I mean, we're married together. Not only do we have a marriage where we like to talk about a lot of things, but also you do like this. You enjoy building and what things are going to look like overall in the end. So we've had clients where you see that divide. You see a husband who absolutely no interest or maybe to a degree some interest, but overall wife gets to choose. Like what is your insight on that? What are your thoughts with that?
So typically the wife is more concerned about what everything looks like.
Yeah.
And the husband is more concerned about finances. And so they're polar opposites as far as those two things go. And so, and usually in the beginning, the guy's involved with like selections. And then finally he just gets to the point where he just like, okay, I don't care anymore, and he just kind of backs out. But then until he sees what it costs. And then he's like, and then all of a sudden it's like he's involved again because he's like, wait, I don't want to spend that kind of money. And then they go the rounds. And so that's why I think it's so important that in the beginning they figure out if they need to have a budget on this house. And
but I think we do that a lot with our clients, and wife just starts derailing it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm gonna take some accountability here. I feel like I did that with our house.
Yeah.
I'm just like, we're adding that. No, we're doing that.
Yeah.
And men, if they love their wives and want to give their wives things, I think sometimes they just fall and they get ensnared by,
So I think what might help with that situation then is to have a contingency line item or a line item to use for things that you need to have or want, not need to have, but things that you want as you're building. And hey, I like this tile and the one we're looking at is $5 a foot. Well, this one's 10.
Yeah.
I really want to splurge and go on that. Okay, well, I've got this line item for those types of things that I can pull
Right.
from.
Well, I think like moving forward with our new house, one of the thoughts that I've had is that I'm diving into the design, just barely started, and I know that like the exterior of our house, we really want to get that right. Like we want to knock that out of the ballpark. So it may mean that our budget is kind of like pulled from other places on the inside. But what you and I have discussed is rather than finishing it all 100%, like maybe stepping back and going like with our interior trim finishes, what can we start with? And then what can we add later?
Yeah.
And we've discussed some of those things. Like what can we look at doing down the road and then making it more of a journey than it has to be a finished project right away. In a perfect world, and there are people that can do that. There are people that can build a home, get it designed, fully furnish it, and have the yards done and everything. And then there's others that have to piece it together little by little. And I think that if wives could have that mentality of enjoying the journey rather than pushing so hard to get the finished product, it would take a little pressure off of the man needing to comply every time with every wish that that wife has.
Yeah. Well, and if that's a concern, then spend more money on the primary bathroom
Yeah.
and the kitchen, and then not so much on secondary bathrooms because you're never going to be in there.
And you could also layer them with like rugs and accessories and
Exactly.
really and wallpaper down the road.
Yeah.
And more and wainscoting. But yeah, I think that that's something that looking back, I mean, we did trim work everywhere.
Yeah,
in
there
the
was
house.
a lot of trim work.
We did so much. And now that I look back, I mean, it was beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It was incredible.
Yeah,
But
wainscot,
now I'm like,
that
you know,
all that adds up.
it's expensive. And I think like like with this new home, I'm like, you know what, we can save some of that for down the road. And let's focus on getting at least the outside right, because you really have to kind of get that right from the get-go. It's hard to come back and do that later, but the inside you can definitely layer and increase how it looks over time, increase what's within it, much easier.
Yeah, for sure.
So
That's true.
I don't know. So that's a thought. Yeah, I feel like husbands and wives, I've noticed in most builds, there is a pretty, there's like a connect to a certain point. And I think that you and I have even discussed moving forward with clients, really pushing for more connect, more discussion, more wives not making decisions without husbands around, that kind of stuff.
Especially in the beginning, I think that both parties need to be present when they're like talking about selections and those types of things.
Yeah. And even as they go down, sometimes wives want to add, well, you know what, since we're at this point, let's add some more. And I think that really making sure that they're both on the same page, like we're streamlining that better. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, what was one of the hardest things about building our house? I mean, there were plan busts, but I mean, that wasn't hard. It was just more like, okay, we got to deal with it. But like, what would you say overall was like the hardest thing about building a house together?
I think just what we talked about was we spent a lot more money on trim, and
Yeah.
I think if we just had a better idea of, hey, this is what we're going to do, we kind of added stuff as we went.
Yeah.
And I think if we kind of had a better idea of this room is going to have only this, once you start working on a house and it goes vertical and you're not looking at just two-dimensional plans, and you start walking into that room and then you start like looking at, oh yeah, but what if
this now?
I know, look at the ceiling, and then what if we put
some more shiplap
on the ceiling and more wainscot in this room, and you start adding all these different types of materials, then it just really becomes emotional. And that's where people start to run into problems, is once it turns into an emotional thing. So back to just accept that you're going to have emotional like purchases, but plan for them monetarily that you can use that money for those emotional purchases.
For sure.
Because we see it with appliances too.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's like, oh, but I love this, Sub-Zero.
It's hard when you start shopping, and it's hard when you start doing the design to not be like, and I've even had things like, I had one client where I showed her so many lights and it kept going on and on, and she could not find lights she loved. So then I boosted up the budget.
Yeah.
And I told her the budget's now going to have to be boosted to get into something you want. We did, but the husband was not aware that budget was busted, and it became a huge source of contention. And I think, and I can say he felt almost like we bamboozled him.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I talked about those costs.
I think the best thing too is once you select all of your stuff, stay off of Pinterest.
That's the other thing. Stay off of Pinterest.
Because then you start to second guess your selections.
Yeah.
And then, we just finished up a bill for somebody and it was like not the largest of homes,
Yeah.
but it had the most change orders I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it was a small house.
Because she kept looking.
She kept looking and kept looking and kept looking
Yeah.
and changing and changing and changing.
Yeah.
And I think that really honestly, it's like once you see it, you love it. You pull the trigger on it. Don't keep circle.
And that's a challenge for me, knowing how much is out there and what's available. Like I can do design, go, this is beautiful. And then go on to Pinterest or see something on Instagram and go, oh, well now I like this. And I start to rethink.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous.
Yeah, that is true.
And it leads to heartache for everyone. It leads heartache, a lot of heartache for us. And for the work it makes our job so much harder. It just
ends up costing everybody a lot more money.
And it costs husband more
all
money.
Parties involved.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So you almost have to go in with the mindset of, you know what, I'm going to pick it, be happy because we can still add and layer later with bedding, pillows, rugs, drapes, like it keeps going. So you have to almost be like, you know what, I'm excited to see what unfolds with this. This is a journey. This is not, I need to get the perfect destination done right now. But if you can do that, great. Then let's do it.
Well, and the other thing too is like cabinets. Spend your money on cabinets and things that you don't want to tear out, because flooring can always be removed.
Maybe not the main floors.
Yeah.
But carpets can be moved and changed out.
That can all be changed out easier than,
Yeah.
Other stuff. But cabinets and countertops, you don't want to mess around.
You can redo a bathroom here and there over the years.
Lighting can always be upgraded. You can always add more wainscot. You can change paint color. Even plumbing fixtures can be changed out to something different.
I agree. I love that. Okay. So with our home, we had a vision. Well, there were things we wanted and we knew we wanted. So we knew that we wanted our room to be down by the kitchen so we could be aware of the kids. Mm-hmm. We knew we wanted a butler's pantry and we knew what we wanted it for. And so it kind of became like our supplement room. It was
a second kitchen.
Yeah. So it was awesome because we would fill up drinks. We had an ice machine. We could put our powders in it. It had a stove in there. So like, it was more like the cookie oven, like you make cookies in there. It was more, so that was awesome. And I looked out into the front yard and was gorgeous. Our kitchen was the heart of our home. And we really wanted our kitchen living space to be big and to be open. And then the other thing too, which was kind of fun, was we had in the front of the house, the music room, and then the main entry. And then I had an office, and then we had taken a room and changed that bedroom into like a conference room. So I could do some design out of it. And it was really fun because you've mentioned in the past that it was really fun, like to hear the kids play music at night when the guitar teacher would come. And then I could sit in my office and kind of wrap up on things. And I felt like I was a part of that while kind of doing my thing. And then it was fun because the kids, if I was at the desk in the conference room, sometimes the kids would come in and do homework and sit there. And it felt like, it's interesting. I have seen a lot of homes where there's front rooms and the front rooms are just kind of like the untouchable room.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
But instead our front rooms were so well used. Wouldn't you say? They were used all the time.
Yeah. They've become more functional, and I think that, like we said before, designing with intention and what you're going to use it for. I remember us having conversations about, we don't want our kids' bedrooms to be too big because we don't want them spending a whole lot of time in there.
Yeah.
We don't put TVs in kids' bedrooms because they don't need to be in there.
The other thing too, and this is where I have a lot of people go against this because I've heard other homeowners that don't like this, but even our kids' closets weren't big. And my mentality behind that was, I want to de-junk stuff.
Yeah.
We don't hold on to stuff. Like we're going to be cleaning and I want things. I don't want it to become overwhelming. I want my children to understand the importance of letting go of things when they don't need it and it no longer serves them. So
we were constantly taking stuff out of their closets and getting rid of it. One of the things that I would have to say that I liked the most out of that house was in the primary closet.
Oh, this is your favorite.
Having the washer and dryer in there so that you can just pull it out and use it right then and there.
Right.
That was one of the things I miss the most right now. Living in a rental house.
It has been a bummer, hasn't it?
That and the ice machine. Yeah. Those two things I think is probably what I miss the most.
Are you kidding me? We have one kid that's left home and that's not what you miss the most?
No, it's the ice machine and the washer and dryer in my closet.
It's not the fact that Caitlin's gone.
Nope. I just want my ice machine.
Okay. He's lying to you guys. He really misses her. Um, yeah, I think that it's been interesting going into this new home and creating with intention. One of the challenges that I've had is realizing it's a new phase of our life. We're no longer creating for this young family that's going to high school and junior high and elementary. We're now creating for like you, me, and one child.
Mm-hmm.
And our son will be gone. He's going on a mission to serve a mission for our church for 2 years. Our daughter's up in Utah. So this is kind of that home where you still want intention, but it looks different. And I haven't quite figured out what that's going to look like
Yeah.
in my mind because I don't know.
Well, I think, when you get adult children and then they're getting married in the future and then they have spouses and eventually have kids, then you want en suites,
Yeah.
for each one of the family members to come back and have like those rooms that are
Yeah.
theirs, and then have a loft area. So when the grandkids start showing up, they can all go sleep up in the loft and do that type of thing. But I think that just designing these homes for what they're going to be intended
Yeah.
for and be super careful with not letting the architectural designer talk you into
Yeah.
something that you're not going to use,
Yeah.
and I think that that's one of the things where you start to get these homes with tons and tons of square footage in them. And
Yeah.
then you kind of have to ask yourself, okay, is it excessive, or is it going to be used,
Yeah.
or what am I using this for? And
Yeah, in our new home, I designed the upstairs. So what I do is before I go to the architectural designer, I have my full floor plan laid out. And you know this about me.
mm-hmm.
And then he goes and he creates it. But it's interesting because I have 2 rooms upstairs where I have a Jack and Jill sharing, kind of because of the window placement. I almost need it. But at the same time, once we'll be seeing those plans, the floor plan, the initial one next week. And I have had the thought, is that silly for me to create a Jack and Jill bath? Because in my old house, I'm getting stuck on that loop of, but our girls had so much fun sharing a bathroom. It was
Yeah.
so fun connecting. But now I'm thinking, I have to think in terms of, but what if my daughter gets married in a few years and she comes back with her husband?
Yeah.
She doesn't, her little
Then-
sister doesn't want to share that bathroom
Exactly.
with them.
You're not going to want to have
So I'm
a
gonna
Jack
have to
and
take a
Jill.
look at that.
You're going to
And-
want to have an ensuite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which stinks because the layout's darling.
And I'm just thinking about like, I want a chipped ice machine and a large ice machine.
That's all you need.
So just 2 different sizes, especially in Arizona here. We love ice, and
Oh,
when
you
you
love
travel
your
to
ice.
Europe, you'll realize how much
And you
love
don't care.
ice.
You know what? Maybe this is why you're so relaxed about the design of this next house. You're just like, as long as I have those things, I'm good.
Yeah. I just want my ice machine and my washer and dryer.
Okay, so one of the things that we loved, or what I've loved about this new home, is this. And not everybody's going to have this vision. I do like when women come in and they have a very clear understanding of their purpose and what they want to do. And there are quite a few. Most women do have that, and I love that. And sometimes I'll add to that. But for our house, I think the last one that we just sold and moved out of, I was trying to do my best to create it with intention. I think I did a pretty good job. But what's interesting is overall, the house did feel like me, but then it didn't. It was really weird. It was so strange because I feel like I was connected to the home, but it still felt like there was a disconnect, which was so strange to me. And I don't know if that was just me somehow understanding, subconsciously we were only going to be in the home for a short time. I don't know why. But it's been interesting going into this new house. You and I got to travel to Israel, and I love Israel. I got to take you back. I went to school there for 4 months, and I got to take you back, and I think it was really awesome to see how much you ended up loving Israel. And it was so cool because as I was walking through churches, as I was walking through the streets, as I was looking at mosaics, as we were up on the hill eating lunch last day, and I could see this color palette, it all of a sudden just kind of like converged. And it was like, I can feel my home. I can feel the colors. I can feel what I want to do with it and what I want to create. And it's so interesting moving forward into this one because I didn't, with the last house, have any of that happen before. And so I literally just scoured pictures and like tried to make it unique and tried to make it stand out to be a little different. But in the end, I didn't, I loved it, but I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did you feel that way with our last house?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of things that, looking at like the master or the primary floors and things like that, shower and stuff like that, it was like, I like it, but you
didn't love it.
Didn't love it. It was
Yeah.
it was the first one. And so I think also the other thing is it can be overwhelming, when you're picking out all that stuff and you're looking at I wanted to spend this budget and And so if you have an idea like what you're talking about, Israel and the color palette and different ideas,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
going to be easier.
yeah, then you're designing things with intention.
Yeah.
And if you've got an intention of what you want it to
Mm-hmm.
look like and
Mm-hmm.
what you're trying, the feel.
Yeah.
I think the feel of the home also is critical as far as
Oh,
like in the
for
design
sure.
process, like with your family. And I want this feel that the
Yeah.
house has. You walk into some homes and they're, extremely modern
Yeah.
and that they can come across as being like cold or
Mm-hmm.
not inviting,
Sterile.
sterile,
Yeah.
and so it all depends
On what
on
you want to
what
accomplish.
you want to accomplish with the feel and like
Yeah.
when people come in, how do you want it to feel for, people? Because it takes on a feel.
I'd agree. So it's interesting because I just feel like this home that we're creating and getting we just started the process, but I already feel more connected, which is so weird.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting that, but I'm grateful to have expected that. So I think from a designer standpoint, I probably need to be a little more cognizant of, who's coming through our doors, and do you feel it already, kind of what you want, or are you completely lost? And if you're lost, we probably need to go back to kind of establishing more of what you're feeling. And if you're overwhelmed by what you're seeing, we need to narrow that down. We need to dive into your interests, what you're invested in, to get a better idea.
Yeah.
So I think that was really cool, having that experience for myself, going, oh, there's a different feeling with this. And maybe I can help people by navigating them through that a little bit more in the beginning. Okay. That home. So this is a good question. Did you feel like it was our forever home?
No.
You knew?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that
I think we kind of all knew, huh?
we all just kind of knew. Yeah. That, hey, we're in the business, and when you are in the business, you build homes.
But that's funny because the house we lived in before that, we lived in for how many years? 10 years?
Yeah, I think we were in there about
And
10
we were
years.
stuck. We weren't
Yeah.
going to do it. And then it was me. I pushed and pushed and pushed. I was like, no, this is right. This is
Yeah.
right.
And also in this industry, content is a lot of things. And so
Yeah.
you've got to constantly come up with content.
Yeah. And sometimes the homes we build for people, I'm like, that's not the content I want to put. A lot of times that's just not the content I want to put
Things
out there.
change,
Yeah, I'm
and-
just like,
and
no,
so,
not until we can build to the point where we're only building what we want.
yeah.
And we have that, like, this is who we are. I actually see builders where it's very clear what they're building for people, and their style comes out very strongly. And that would be my dream,
Yeah.
to be able to design exactly what I love, within a very much narrower scope than what we're building it now, so that what we're putting out there and producing is very congruent.
Yes.
And so when I see that with other designers and builders, I'm like, oh, that's just the dream. Okay. What do you feel, if you could give advice for a husband and a wife, what kind of advice could you give them that would make our lives easier as a builder in terms of what we're creating for them? Because people get very stuck. They're connected and emotional to their home. So what is some advice to help them as they're building their homes to feel that connection with their home, but also recognize that we're not mind readers.
Yeah.
We have to communicate, and we're doing our best. So sometimes people are not going to get exactly what they want because they've never had that experience, or they don't quite know until it is installed. And then suddenly they're like,
Yeah.
that's not what I envisioned. So talk to me about that a little bit, because I'll be honest, there were a couple things in our house I was like, oh, and 95% of the time, 97% of the time, it comes out exactly. I'm like, yep. But then every once in a while, something will happen because somehow I missed it through like maybe cabinetry renderings.
Yeah.
It's sometimes just really hard, or you just miss one little detail and you're like, huh.
Yeah. I think that
Doesn't make it bad. It's just not what you expected.
Yeah. I think that we try to plan for future things, like maybe like lighting, like we don't know where exactly it's going to go. So we'll coil wires in the wall, and then
we've been doing better about scaling that.
We can put, the mirrors up first, and then we can put sconces in afterwards so that they're lined up exactly where they need to go.
And we will render that out, but sometimes it's just nice to do that way.
But I think also that with custom homes, like we were talking about in the beginning, it's never been built before.
Yeah.
And so if it turns out and you look at it, like for instance, our family room, and we saw it and we're like, oh, that's not gonna look good. So we needed to like change it. So what's drawn on paper and what actually comes out are two different things. And sometimes you have to take a step back and like, oh, we might need to tweak that a little bit because the artist's rendition of it's not going to come out how you think it's going to.
I also
So you
think
have to pivot.
I also think too, one of the things I feel like what we are lucky that we have is that I have that design ability. So really our home came out stunning. I think it was beautiful.
Yes.
But a lot of times you'll have people come in and they think they want something. And that's been my challenge. It's like, I promise you it's going to look funny.
Yeah.
It's not going to be balanced right. And sometimes they don't listen to me. And then you can tell they're frustrated with their home. And it's like, you should have listened.
Well, yeah. And again, talking about Pinterest and how much information's on the internet, and they go out and they see all this, and
but you're trying to tell them, you have to execute it this way. You got to do this to get to look that way. And they don't want to hear it.
So going back to prior episode where we talking about like our children and giving them 3 different solutions, and that might be for them, hey, let me give you 3 or 4 different options, and we know this is going to work. And
people want to see it all.
And they want to see it all. But at the end of the day, when you're building a custom home, the sky's the limit.
For sure. Okay. What do you feel is the best advice you can give to someone who maybe doesn't have a budget or is not in the proper place in their life to even build a custom home? Because we're all about creating. We got that experience. We were able to create. So let's take it to our audience that isn't looking for land, isn't looking to build a house. Like a home, I think should reflect beauty. It should reflect connection. It should reflect balance.
Are you talking about like a DIY with existing home or something?
Maybe that, but what can they do? Maybe what can you do on a budget? And what can you do? Like what? Give me a little bit of a run of a gamut. And just to be clear, we don't do renovations.
Yeah. No.
So this is not inviting you guys to call us about renovations but like a home is supposed to be beautiful. And I think a husband and a wife need to get on the same page. It's not important to everybody, but I really think it should. And the reason why is because it does create a feel. Would you not agree that when you put nice things in your home, it creates a feel? I remember our bedroom, when we got ready to, we bought a bed and we bought some nightstands. And then I think we had just some cheap bedding. And I wanted to invest in a rug and some bedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at first you were like, that's fine. This is fine. But then when I did, and we pulled the whole room together, I remember you sitting in the chair, that rocking, like that soft armchair, the glider in the corner. And you just sat there and you're like, our room is so beautiful. Like our room is so beautiful. So I think that lots of times people get stuck in this mindset of, I don't have the money, or I'm living in a small home. So they kind of get in this stuck mindset of like, I don't need it. And why do I need it? But you've had the experience of knowing when we invest in our spaces and we enhance them, it does something to your insides. Emotionally, mentally, it does something for you.
Yeah, I think it creates a peaceful feel, inviting. You want to spend time in there, you like it's your sanctuary. Mm-hmm. So I think that can be done. You can do it on a budget as well, with the different options. I think that's why it's so critical to use an interior designer, because you have so many different samples in your catalogs that you can go through.
Well, and I can do that with high-end stuff, but we're talking about like cheaper homes. So like, for example, we have a friend that just she's renting a house and she needed to put all new furniture and stuff in it. So we did it on a budget and it looks beautiful.
Yes.
Right. So, moving forward, like with anybody renting or anybody that's in a starter house, what would be your advice? Go back to when we were with little kids. What could we have done, or what are some things that would have enhanced our spaces to bring that joy into our lives?
Well, you can find DIY projects online and just
copy them.
Like, hey, I like these paint samples and I like this wainscot, and you can have guys come in and add wainscot for inexpensive, or
totally.
You can tear out floors yourself, and Home Depot rents the equipment, and you can do it on a weekend, and then so I mean, there's all different types of things if you want to.
Bedding, you can go to Target and you can layer your beds. But
exactly.
Look, watch what people are doing online, and then go back. Be fearless in copying. Yeah. Go out and copy.
Exactly. You can do these small projects and do a little bit at a time, and maybe one a quarter, and And the next thing you know, by the end of the year, you've done 4 different projects by the end of the year.
And you've enhanced your home.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, it's definitely going to pay off to update it when you go to sell it.
Totally.
You know, you're going to get the money back out of it.
Totally.
It'll show well.
Yep.
You know, I've got a cousin who purchased my grandparents' house, and she went through it and just now it's on the market, but they'd gone through and updated it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And it looks beautiful. It shows extremely well for an older home.
Yeah, and it was an old house. When was it built?
It was built in the 60s.
And when your grandfather passed away, it was pretty original to what it looked like.
It was original and pretty rough, you know, and so they went through and like replaced a bunch of stuff, added
painted
wainscot,
added
and
flooring.
It looks like a new home inside. And so they just did a bunch of DIY projects and it looks amazing. I was surprised how well it looks.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love seeing DIYs. And I think it's something that can bring people a lot of joy, but they have to get outside of their fears and their anxieties, and they have to budget for it and then just start working at it and just eating away at it a little by little. And over time, it may take a couple years, but it's amazing what your spaces can turn into over that time. All right. I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, is there anything you want to add or any thoughts like in terms of like just with us building a house and enhancing your homes? Is there anything you want to add or you can think of that maybe our viewers and listeners would want to know from the perspective of us who are creators and are always designing and enhancing and wanting things to be more beautiful?
Yeah, I think that definitely in the beginning, get your builder involved as soon as you can so that when you get into the architect, you can make sure that they're designing something that is...
Good advice. Great advice.
You're on the same page. And then that way you can watch how much money you want to spend. You know, if you don't have a budget, that's one thing. But if you do have a budget, then this architectural designer could be designing something that's like way outside of your budget based upon the pitch of the roof, the inside
square footage.
Yeah, the square footage, the pitch, the height of the ceilings, the materials on the outside of the house can add up drastically. You know, like stucco is going to be a whole lot cheaper than brick all the way around it. So there's a bunch of different things, you know, that can be done.
It's kind of like setting in place a checks and balance when you hire a designer, a builder, and an architectural designer at the same time.
Yeah, because what happens is that people will bring us these plan sets and they'll want numbers on it, and we go and bid it out, and then it's outside their budget, and they're like, "Oh, dang! Now I got to go all the way back to the designer, rip it all apart, have him redraw it, and pay all that money to him to do that, to where it would have been a whole lot cheaper to do that in the beginning."
Yeah. Well, think about how often we have had people come in and get pricing. And they're like, "Oh, I can't even afford this."
Exactly.
And they never had, they didn't understand what costs were per square footage or what they could even get.
And when you're talking to an architectural designer, that's not going to be one of the questions they're going to ask you is, what's your budget? They're going to ask you what your budget is to pay for their services.
Yeah.
So.
And how big do you want this to be? How many rooms? How many spaces?
How many square feet do you want it?
Agreed.
But typically that's not one of the questions they ask them is like, what is your build budget?
Yeah.
They don't ask that.
Agreed.
So, I mean, these custom homes, they can start at about $350, $400 a foot, and they can go all the way up to like $600, $700, $800 a foot.
In some cases, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500
exactly.
a foot.
Just depending on what you do
so
on the inside.
So be careful about what you get into.
Yeah.
And I think also to plan everything ahead of time, pick everything ahead of time, get your budget ahead of time. If a builder gets going and you don't have selections made, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, because a lot of builders will just send their clients out, "Hey, I need you to pick out cabinets or flooring or countertops," and then the homeowners are like, "Okay, where do I go?" And they run out and they can't find it, and then they settle on stuff that could be way expensive.
Or they go and they pick without any education, and then it's way out of their budget.
Exactly.
They may be led to where to go, but then they have no understanding.
Exactly.
So anyways, no, I love that. Great advice. I think moving forward with our home, like definitely, I think even for us, our planning, our budgeting, everything is getting much more critically analyzed earlier on, rather than getting through the build and going, well, let's add this and let's add that. Like we're going to be talking about where are we holding off, and let's be at peace with that.
Yeah, and I think number one, having communication with the couple that's building. They need to be communicating together.
Yeah,
you know, and that goes back to prior episodes where we're talking about trusting.
Yeah,
and you're a team at the end of the day when you're building this together, and really, honestly, it's a stressful situation, or it can be a stressful situation if you let it be and you don't communicate, and then it turns into a stressful situation.
Yes, and that is
and then the home builder turns into the referee.
Yeah, or the bad guy.
or the bad guy.
So
Exactly.
true. Well, I think that wraps it up. I mean, I think that gives really good insight to anybody building a home. It gives insight as to like what they need to prepare for in terms of how they want to create their home, in terms of what to look out for. I mean, we could even talk about more like financing. We could talk about all kinds of things, which we'll get into further episodes. But I think this like gives kind of like a general overview of what people can expect and what building looks like, and kind of maybe how to navigate a little better.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm excited. I think as we build this next home together, I think we're going to be able to come up with even more information to share. And I think it's going to be fun because we'll be able to share it as it goes.
Exactly.
So anyways, well, thank you for showing up, babe.
Hmm.
I'm grateful to you. Love you.
Love you.